Super Senpai Podcast.
Welcome to the Super Senpai Podcast. This is a weekly episodic tokusatsu-related podcast where we're hecka excited about mecha. I'm Pat.
I'm Grant.
What'd you forget?
I was just laughing at the hecka about mecha. It's just a funny line.
Great.
That's delightful.
Another new voice this week. What is that? Who is that? Who's there?
We can't be surprised every time.
Who am I? Hi, folks. I'm Pocky Squirrel.
Yay!
Welcome.
Thanks for having me
Pocky's
on,
here
guys.
with us this week. It's exciting. Oh, you're so very welcome. Thanks for joining us. So, so every week we get together and we talk about Toku in its various forms, but specifically we talk about Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger right now, or Pato Ranger, depending on your flavor there. And this week we have Pocky Squirrel with us, who is not only a really cool person, but she's also a bit of a Toku head. So, Pocky, you want to tell us and the people out there in listener land a little bit about your own kind of personal history with rubber suits and rubber monsters?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm old and it's long, and as it so often does, started with Power Rangers. I've been in that fandom since the very, very beginning, and kind of started branching out within the last couple of years. I started watching Sentai as it aired with Tokuger, followed that up with Drive, which sent me into the Kamen Rider abyss. Now I'm checking out Ultraman. It's a sickness. It really is.
It's a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, and you're definitely in a place where the inmates are running the asylum, because we too have all of those various diseases. But yeah, it's really great to have you on, and your story is of course similar to mine. PR for a long time, and then suddenly all at once everything, because you realize it's accessible. So, but it's exciting to have you on, and of course we're going. You're caught up as well. You've been watching along with the prior episodes.
Yes, indeed.
How are you feeling about the show so far?
I think that this show is kind of suffering for me from a bad case of not being Q Ranger. I was really, really emotionally invested in Q Ranger, and because of that, I feel like Lupin has to do a lot to impress me, but I don't hate it. That bodes well.
Yeah, see, I didn't watch. I watched a little bit of the first episode, and then I didn't keep up with it because I had other stuff going on. And Pat, did you watch Q Ranger at all?
I saw the first 3, and then I don't know what happened, but I fell off. Like, I liked it. I liked the aesthetic, and I like aliens, the fact that they were pushing aliens in a big cast, but for whatever reason, I think I got distracted by something else.
Ooh, a butterfly.
That must be it.
It's the aliens that really do it for me. I am such a space opera wonk, and that's exactly what Q Ranger is. So if you have a few minutes to rub together, I do recommend checking it out.
I definitely will. I think I've said, well, I just generating more interest in Sentai through this. I ended up picking up Tokuger, and I'm working on that right now. And it's probably a bad idea to do that and Die Ranger and Q Ranger and everything else that's going on, but that's what we're here for, right?
Wow, that's quite a lot and quite a selection. Having watched both, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the idea of watching Tokuger and watching Die Ranger at the same time, and can't handle it.
Yeah, Die Ranger's for fun. That one's just for me, but I'm trying to actually think really hard about Tokuger as I'm watching it.
I think you actually just complicated things by saying that.
Yeah, just a bit. But I mean, like, this is a first thing for me too, where I want to be able to like process it properly, and I'm inspired very much by you, Grant, in your reaction threads, and I mean everybody else's that we see. So I want to give it like the proper respect, and come out of it thinking about something.
Yeah, Grant has single-handedly changed the way that I live tweet things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw you doing an Ultraman one too.
Yes, I did that for Mabius for a while until it just got entirely too long and I lost the plot. I'm trying to do that with Kamen Rider Gaim now as well.
Welcome.
Yeah, that format, I sort of modified it from a friend's thread that I saw, and I thought, you know what, they were doing one thread, but they were doing like multiple tweets per episode with like 4 and 5 pictures an episode, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to do that. I'm too lazy. So the one tweet per episode format, if I've given one thing to fandom, I like to think that that's it, because it's a really convenient way to watch a show, and also to be like, oh, I didn't get to watch for like 4 days. Where am I at again? Like, you can go find it.
See, I just have too many thoughts for one tweet, but...
You do your thing. Mm-hmm. You do you. Well, guys, are we ready to start talking about what we're hoping to see out of episode 4 and then jump in and watch it?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, any predictions? Any hopes?
Yeah. I think last week we actually got a little bit more of the Pat Ranger. This, hopefully, I think I don't know about you, Pocky, but I'm definitely wanting more out of the Pat Ranger this time.
Yes, I feel like I'm more able to care about them. I'm more interested in caring about them.
Yeah, the sort of Zenigata-like frustration makes it easier to sort of identify with them and their sort of constant failure. I think for myself, I'm really hoping if we get more Pat Ranger, if I can ask for a little bit more, maybe Pat Ranger Pink, because we saw last week especially how much more competent she is and sort of professional than her sort of two fellows. Be nice if we got an episode on her, but maybe beggars can't be choosers here, but that would be nice.
Oh, that is always my preference, and competent Pink is always my preference as well.
Definitely.
I don't think we needed anything. I mean, we got a taste of the Pat Kaiser last week. I think anything we were wondering, I don't know that they would answer this immediately, was if they could have both the Lupin Kaiser and the Pat Kaiser at the same time. But I don't know if that'll be this week.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but yeah, I don't know. Again, it would be nice to see more of the Lupin Kaiser, the actual suit, because we only got glimpses of it in those first 2 episodes.
Yeah, kind of want to know what Good Striker's deal is, too.
I think you think we're just about ready to check it out?
Yeah, let's find out for ourselves, shall we?
All right, let's do it up.
この番組は楽しい時を作るグループ PRT とザ・コミックフィンドとご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
And we're back. Yep, this just keeps getting better and better. I laughed a lot this time. I don't know about you guys.
Definitely enjoyed it.
That was a solid episode. Super cute.
So this time we got a lot more of the Pat Ranger, which was what we were hoping for. Got a little bit more of Lupin Yellow, but mostly it seemed mostly like a Lupin Pink, and sort of expanding on her relationship at the academy with oops, did I say Lupin Pink? I meant Pato Pink and then Pato Red's past as fellow students at the academy. Pretty cute. The monster was pretty cool, and we got to see sort of what happens when one team wants to take over the mecha. He just bails, and then they're just left there.
Yeah.
When one team wants to take over the mecha, or when Good Striker just decides that he's going to peace out and do whatever he wants.
That is a good point, and yes, that's what I meant.
They have absolutely no say in whose mecha it is.
Yeah. I'm feeling these guys. We're gonna do this now. Okay.
Oh wait, what? Gatai? What? Okay, sure. Let's do this. Just roll with it.
But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed that episode. It's strange, as Pocky mentioned, it felt like we wrote that one with our brains. Pretty much every request we had going in, or prediction, we wanted a Pat Ranger episode. We got that. I specifically was like, it'd be nice to see a Pat Ranger Pink episode after last week, seeing her do so well. We got that. Pat, you mentioned like, hey, it would be really great if we, saw both mecha this week. We got that. Like, it pretty much hit all those switches. That was really, really nice. And now I'm out of predictions because I got everything I want. No.
Well, now you just got to come up with new predictions for next time.
It sounds like so much work.
What? Think about the shows we're watching? Who does that?
All I do is I shovel popcorn into my mouth. And that's all I'm supposed to be doing. No. I really enjoyed this one. I think focusing on Pato Pink was the right call. Her sort of, I don't know if I would call it a weakness, but she has sort of a tough, professional, no-nonsense exterior, and then she has this sort of, her other side is she's a bit smitten with stuffed animals and sort of, draws energy from them and from snuggling them, which is an interesting kind of quirk to have, especially because it's something she tries to keep private, but only does in public places when apparently everyone's watching. But I really like just the kind of the hook with the shark kaijin, and the way, even though it was a strange setup initially, the way it was like teleporting people in, and Pato Pink got to go in, figure out what was going on, still release all the people and start the fight and everything. I really, really like the structure of it. I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that even though she's got kind of this weakness, or more like a quirk than a weakness, it didn't hold her back any. You know, she's still portrayed as a very, very competent character, and the fact that she has this side of herself that's cutesy and feminine does nothing to diminish that, which I greatly appreciate, because it so often does.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me like it wasn't just women that were falling prey to this thing. We saw, what was his name? Love Room Jaws was putting out this plushie that people would hug or snuggle with, and that would send them to this horrible jail cell just in the middle of the forest somewhere. There were children in there, there were women in there, but there were also
they're like middle-aged dudes in there, and it was great.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a plushie.
Yeah.
Moral of the story.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think the scenes with, the nice thing about it was that there were sort of hints of, this wasn't like a friendship episode per se. It wasn't like, well, of course Pink and Yellow are friends because they're ladies. Like, it's just Yellow has a conscience, and she was like, well, people are missing, we need to help them. And because Pink Powder Ranger was sort of on the case, it just naturally led to her discovering things, but they weren't, and they sort of cooperated a little bit. I really enjoyed that fight in the forest. We got two really, I think, for me, the two big standouts were obviously that fight in the forest, and also the earlier fight where they were all, that first time they encountered the shark, Love Room Jaws. But the fight in the forest was particularly great because Pink and Yellow were sort of incidentally helping each other, but they weren't necessarily teaming up. It was a really nice touch.
Yeah, and the fact that they kind of like bent their own rules for each other as a gesture of appreciation.
Mm-hmm. I think I particularly enjoyed this sort of like, we saw a lot of pairing off this episode. It wasn't just Yellow and Pink being paired off, but we saw a number of different, in each fight, it felt like we saw one Pato and one Lupin get paired off in different ways, and the way they were, especially in the forest, fighting each other, but then accidentally or through their sort of collateral damage, taking out all the Poldermans or what have you. That was really neat, just the way that's like their battle was focused on each other, and also the kaijin, the Love Room Jaws, but then they were still managing to fight everyone else too. And that was a really neat, a lot of really good choreography and well thought out in that sense. So did you guys feel like, Pat, you mentioned this when we were watching, the sort of the human trafficking angle? Do you think that was just sort of an incidental theme, or do you think that was what they were trying to go for?
Well, I mean, we have the group of villains this time as sort of a gang, so human trafficking is one thing that definitely falls under sort of crime family schemes, right?
Right.
And it's kind of a cool, dark undertone to this. Oh, here's the plushie that captures people. They get trapped in his jaws because his jaws were somehow a way for him to teleport people to this prison. And that trap, I guess, it seemed to suit. Did it make sense to you that if we think about it last time, what were the other ones? We have the bubblegum snail thing was carving out statues, and then the one before that was just sort of setting things on fire and stealing jewels.
The bubblegum guy was an art forger, which really kind of goes along with the organized crime mafia motif.
Good. That's right. But the fire shark?
Yeah, the fire guy, I can't remember what his deal was at this point, which is sad because this was only a couple of weeks ago.
Arson?
It's amazing what you can forget in a couple days, as we like to say on BLT. I think he was just sort of a destructive, bad guy. So I think thinking about, like Pocky just mentioned, thinking about the last week's episode as sort of art forgery. I think definitely the trafficking angle falls in. They don't really lean into it. Like, there's not a lot of like, oh, they're taking them down to the docks, and if we don't get them in time, they're away. But there's definitely an element of like, yeah, he's catching people, and he calls them merchandise or merch. Like, that's stealing people away. Yeah, there's definitely an element of that.
Is there anything that stuck out to you as a negative or that you disliked about the episode?
Not so much a negative as an unanswered question, given what we were talking about a second ago. I still don't feel like I have a really clear read on what these people were supposed to have been used for.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think that's a corollary of, we still, I mean, maybe we're asking too much because our sort of Santa granted all our wishes, if you will. But to add another to the list, we still, like, we know why Lupin Ranger wants why that team wants the Lupin collection, and we know obviously Power Ranger's trying to stop them and stop crime in general, kind of as an organization. We don't have 100% good feel on what the Ganglers are after, other than like muhahaha money. Maybe if we knew their specific interest in the collection, or what they're specifically trying to achieve other than general mob stuff, maybe that would have helped inform, like, oh, well, of course he needs to steal people. Yeah, like, I think we feel like I almost have more of a better read on the blue Gangler, and she has like the chain gun arms and everything. Like, we almost have a better read on her because she talks about it doing experiments and things like that, so we know she's got sort of a mad scientist type bent.
Yeah, and that's a trope that I'm real tired of seeing, is the lone female henchman being the scientist.
Yeah, it certainly seems to pop up pretty regularly. I do love her design, though. I love the chain, like the sort of chain gun arms and the exposed like rib cage elements to it. I think it's a really good suit, and the mouth moves. I'm big on the mouth moving.
Oh, she wigs me out. I hate that she doesn't have eyes.
Okay, so here's more of a funny question, I guess. If you guys were given a shark in a school outfit plushie, not knowing what you know now, would you have at some point hugged it or snuggled it and ended up in this trap? That's the real question we have to ask.
Absolutely.
Not me. I don't usually do that, I think.
I probably
I mean, what is it? You just have to bring it in real close? Do you have to touch it? What are the rules?
It seems to be cheek
you gotta cuddle
to
with
gill
it.
contact.
Yeah.
Because Pato Pink, she didn't just disappear right when she touched it, nor did Green and Red. Like, they had to really get in there and like super snuggle that thing. Like, they had to glomp it in early 2000s anime terms.
Okay. Yep. Yes, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I totally would have been behind bars in a cave. No question.
Proud to be trapped there with you, Pocky.
I don't have any sharks, but the number of plushies in the room that I'm in right now is definitely in double digits.
No shame, no judgment.
I understand that.
Well, any more thoughts, guys, before we move on to Twitter questions?
I think there's something I want out of this that I felt that I'm going to add to the wish list is, so when we have the team attacks, or the whatever you want to call it, the bazooka attack that they end up having, where the Pato Rangers fuse into one and then the Lupin Rangers split into a bunch. I want to see if, somewhere down the line, what that's going to be like if there's a joint attack between the two teams. Because I thought that was kind of what was going to be set up, and then Good Striker went for the Pat fusion instead.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious, too, along those lines. I mean, it seems to be implying that Good Striker is the key to their combinations. So if I had to guess and go out on a limb, there's probably a bad striker, so that there's two strikers floating around and allowing for combo attacks. I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
And the thing that I really dug about that episode was the dynamic between the Pato Rangers. And I really want to see that evolve and grow over time, because Red and Pink, clearly have a pre-existing relationship. Green is the new guy. Just the three of them getting, like, deeper into their relationship as a team.
Yeah.
I imagine we're going to get another Pat Ranger episode next week. So hopefully, more of that.
Yeah, most definitely. So anything else before we move on to El Twitter Qs?
I don't have anything.
No, I don't think so.
All right, so this is the first one coming to us from Paladin4221. How do you feel about the adaptation process for Super Sentai Power Rangers? Are you more likely to enjoy the original or the adaptation?
Short answer for me, I'm probably more likely to watch the original. The last thing I watched, I think, was the Shinkenger when they were starting to do it, and then I didn't put a whole lot of time into it.
Both. I always watch both to one extent or another. And there have been times that I've liked the adaptation more than the original, and there have been times that I've liked the original much more than the adaptation. There are times that it's pretty neck and neck for me. I think that Power Rangers has potential to come up with something that's very, very different from its source material. And the more it differs, the more likely it is to be successful in its own right, and not draw as many ham-fisted comparisons from the fandom as to which is better.
Yeah, I would definitely be on similar lines as Pocky. Now, my problem is that I haven't seen enough complete Sentai series to really compare the two, and I'm still catching up on Power Rangers. I'm only to Dino Thunder now on my rewatch, but I'm gonna watch both. And I do sort of compare them in my head, but I don't even know if it's fair to do. And I don't think of them, like, for example, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Zyuranger, they're just not, like, they are sort of the same show, but they're not. So I just don't compare them. Does that make sense? Like, just because they share suits, like, I don't. I think of them as two different streams. I try to think of them as their own individual things. I mean, there's some inevitable comparisons, but it just doesn't.
Yeah, especially in that era of Power Rangers, it's very, very different. I mean,
Sure.
you can't really effectively draw comparisons between Mega Ranger and Power Rangers in Space. They are not at all the same thing. You can't draw comparisons between Zeo and O-Ranger because they're very much not the same thing.
Right. Yeah, so I try not to compare them. I try to enjoy both, though, as sort of parallel tracks, if you will.
Exactly, yeah.
The B-side.
For me, they're two totally different things, and people really like to compare them to each other, but for me, that way lies madness. No thank you, I'd rather enjoy each separately on its own merits.
Preach. All right, so next one comes to us from Sunglass Pre, who was with us last week. She asked, have you guys seen any Metal Heroes? Got any specific recommendations? It's something I've been wanting to check out for a while, and was wondering if you had faves.
I'm going to sit down and listen for this one because I have also been looking into checking out Metal Heroes for the first time, and I have no idea about anything. So, send me your recs.
Same here. I'm getting a little bit more interested because that Toku Gifts Twitter keeps putting stuff out, and it looks really cool. Really cool.
I've only seen in aggregate probably one full episode, but not even from the same series. But I have talked a lot of Metal Heroes with people much wiser than myself, so I will speak from not knowledge, maybe the least ignorance, I guess. Only because I've sat at the feet of wiser people who've seen more Metal Heroes. The two most common recommendations I've seen are Winspector and Jan Person. And from what I've seen of Jan Person, it looks absolutely maddening, and I can't wait to watch it. So that one's definitely going to be my first, because I know people who they'll go to the mat for Jan Person over a lot of other media. So definitely looking forward to seeing that one myself.
I think I've seen a lot of recommendations for Space Sheriff Gavan. That counts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, Space Sheriff Gavan's, a lot of people, I guess, sort of from my taking of the temperature of the room, I don't know, but it seems to be sort of like the quote-unquote generic Metal Hero show. Like, that is like the mold, if you will.
The character is showing up a lot in crossovers with other things these days, and the actor is very buff and very attractive, so a certain segment of the fandom is pretty loud in voicing its appreciation of this. That's about all I know about Gavan, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm gonna need to look this up.
No one fights like Gavan, no one hit me.
Oh. Fantastic. You had that one in the chamber.
Next season, Beauty Ranger versus Beast Ranger. I'm calling it now.
Oh, no.
It's happening.
Oh, no. Oh, boy.
Confirmed.
So this one comes to us from the second Batgirl, another Toku lady. She says, Pocky, who has better capes or who wore it better? So
So,
Just for you.
since we're name dropping Second Batgirl on this show anyways, I need to tell a little bit of a story, which is namely why I find the title of this podcast to be so freaking hilarious.
Uh-oh.
Several years ago, Second Batgirl went to the comic book shop to pick up some Power Rangers merchandise. It was around the time that the card game came out, and she was looking for it. And this gatekeeping variety of fan, I will say this as nicely as possible, decides that he's going to strike up a conversation and start talking down Power Rangers and mansplaining at her about Toku in general. And the conversation included the phrase, "Did you know that Power Rangers is based on a Japanese series called Super Senpai?"
Nice.
And it's been a joke ever since. So I really appreciate the fact that your podcast is called what it is.
That's what a strange and wonderful coincidence.
It's delightful. It really is.
I think when I was pushing for this, because I initially was trying to talk Grant up for this, like, hey, we could call it this, we could call it that, and it actually ended up being sort of like a mistake, like a beautiful mistake that you misremembered what it was called.
Yeah,
what
I
was trying to call
misremembered,
it.
and I said, "What are we calling it? The Super Senpai Podcast?" And you were like, "No, but yes." So
Somehow knowing this
sort
just
of,
makes everything even better.
It's a beautiful twist of fate.
But as to the
Oh,
question at
goodness.
hand, who wears better capes? I have to give it to Lupin Ranger because I just think that they are so flagrantly stylish about everything that they make it work.
yeah, no doubt.
I guess that's it. I mean, there's your answer.
All right, so this one comes to us from Red Blue Ranger. What is it that keeps bringing you back to Toku, and how do you prevent burnout? Ooh, that's a big one.
I can say it's two things for me. One is the absolutely endless variety of shows that there are out there. Like, the thing about Toku fandom is that there is literally something for everybody. And once you know what your brand is, you can find more of it without any problem at all. And if you start getting bored of one thing, you can move on and try something else. You know, you feel like you've gotten all that you can out of Sentai and you're getting bored of the tropes, check out Kamen Rider. Or if you're getting frustrated with that, check out Ultraman. I didn't even realize how great Ultraman was until like 6 months ago. I've been in this fandom for years and I'm still discovering new things. That's part of it for me, is that there's always something different to check out and to discover. The other piece of it for me is the people. So many of my closest friends are in and people that I know from the Toku fandom that even if I got sick of the material, I don't think I could ever leave because I wouldn't want to leave them behind.
Mm.
I mean, aw. I guess for me, I think it's sort of knowing that the toy machine's going to keep going. I mean, my bag, I'm going to repeat this forever because I just feel the need to say it, but my bag is Kamen Rider, and so I recognize that if I'm not feeling it this year, maybe next year will be good. And for the most part, I've been on it. Like, I think I only kind of dipped out for probably Ghost and Wizard. But everything else, I've either come back and finished or have been following along. So Sentai's a new thing for me, sort of, to really commit to. But
so you came into it kind of the opposite direction that I did.
Yeah. I mentioned this in the first time, but I had seen Kamen Rider at some point in the past, and I didn't know. I think I even had like I think it's called a Hurricane Driver, right? The very first, or Ichigo's is the Hurricane Driver? Maybe. I think I might even had one of them just growing up, and I just, like, Power Rangers look right, but it wasn't quite there.
Right.
And so when I found out what Kamen Rider was, like, for real, I was like, this is it. I've been looking for this my whole life. Like, so.
Did you watch Masked Rider, though? That is the question.
I did, and the first toy I bought with my own money was his gold form, which was, I mean, the show was really bad. That just was. I knew that even as a kid, but the aesthetic of the toy was correct, and I didn't know what it was. Oh, was it like Robo Rider? I don't know what it was called. I haven't gone back to Black RX yet.
I guess for myself, part of the thing that keeps bringing me back to Toku, I mean, I've been in love with giant monsters and rubber suits and practical effects fights since I was 7 years old, jumping up on and down on the couch watching, Godzilla reruns on, TNT or whatever. But particularly Toku, sort of action television with Kamen Rider and Sentai and Ultraman and such. I'm part of what brings me back is that there's really nothing else like it. It is its own brand of just kind of adventure entertainment, and I'm a big, I think a lot of times, especially in our culture now, we tend to value quote unquote, gritty or adult material that's very harsh and dark and rah rah rah, and like that's dime a dozen. If you want a gritty show about hard men making hard choices, like, I mean, go find it, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing for there to be ample amounts of high quality television, because a lot of it is very good, but there's not a lot of whimsy out there, and these shows are full of it. Like, there's just this kind of boundless energy. It's just like, hey, how about in this episode that's about crime and thieves and stuff, there's a shark and he teleports to his jaws. Okay, that's cool. Well, we're just gonna do that. We're gonna play that straight. And there's a level of commitment to the whimsy. No one at any point goes, "Oh my god, you guys, this is the stupidest thing," right? Like, no one ever winks at the camera. No one breaks kayfabe, to use a wrestling term, right? Everybody's just, they commit and they sell it, and that's part of what brings me back. Like, the fact that no other media is like it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that even when Toku is at its darkest, it doesn't lose that whimsy, and it doesn't lose hope.
Most definitely.
I think that having some experience with this, I don't know what the Super Sentai endings are generally like, but Kamen Rider endings for me tend to be, even if there's like some noble, even if there's like a massive sacrifice or a huge loss of life, it ends up being kind of a net positive for the world or universe or something, because either humans tried or humans succeeded, or they repelled the enemy forces, or they're working together with the monsters, or whatever it is. It ends up being like, yeah, okay, like things are going to turn out okay. Sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one comes to us from Behelite Bebop, our buddy. They ask, favorite characters from Toku in general.
There's so many.
Yeah.
It's such a broad question.
I can lead with this one. See, anytime anybody asks us for favorites, I just always say, I'm going to pick one I really like. I don't know if it's my favorite. It just came to mind right now. I'm a huge fan of sentient items and weapons and things. And I love the visual design too, but Byakko from Die Ranger, who we would know as Saba, the Kiba Ranger or White Ranger's dagger. I love sentient weapons, and it's like, this is a really sick-looking blade, and also there's a talking tiger head on the back. And especially the way it's used in Die Ranger, because, Ko doesn't talk. He lets Saba do the talking for him and stuff to sort of mask that he's a little kid, and like, that's just such great shtick. I love that. That's fantastic.
This is still really, really tough. Favorite character in all of Toku. I'm thinking super hard, but it goes, I'm gonna default to Momotaros from Kamen Rider Den-O. Like, he's a monster, but darn it, he's a super lovable one, and he's trying to be a tough guy, but he's not a tough guy. Like, this is the one, Grant, when I was talking about this before, the series where the writer actually gets possessed by the monsters that he's befriending. Okay. So whenever he is possessed by a monster, he sort of takes on physical attributes and gets like a streak of color in the hair to match the monster. And so his hair kind of gets spiked back. And anytime he's in this, he's either wearing like a leather jacket all of a sudden, or like is wearing a muscle suit under his shirt. And it's like the tough guy, and just sort of the way he talks, like it speaks to me. And it says a lot that my first SH Figure Arts was Momotaros, and that was the beginning of my sickness that I had to cure myself of.
You've just raised the level of interest I have in watching Den-O.
It's fun. Don't look for a plot. Just enjoy it as a comedy thing.
For myself, if we're sticking with the Japanese end of Toku things, Godai Yusuke. I love him so much. He's the kind of person I aspire to be like. My cat is freaking out. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. Cool. All right, so our next question comes from Strongest Human, good buddy Lou. He asks, all bust out a question, favorite transformation device? Can be Sentai, KR, Ultra, Metal Heroes, whatever. So specifically device, transformation device.
Oh man. I'm gonna need some time to think.
This is a tough one for me also because I have a big thing for henshin devices. I collect henshin devices. Having started in Power Rangers, I have a morpher from every season of Power Rangers.
That's awesome.
Woo! Nice.
You're a champion of the people.
It's a lot. And I haven't seen the Sentai that some of those morphers go with. So I can't say if there's any difference in how the devices are used, but just like in terms of aesthetic and functionality, I really appreciate the ones from O-Ranger and Mega Ranger. And on the Kamen Rider end of things, I really, really enjoy Belts On from Kamen Rider Drive. Just because, like Grant, like what you were saying a few minutes ago about your appreciation for sentient devices, I love the character so much.
Something about a little talking item or something. It's just on the other. It's on the good end of the uncanny valley, like far over. It just makes you like, oh, look at them. Like they have a lot of character and spunk, and I don't know. I think maybe it's because they're an item. They have to have a big personality to make up for the fact that they can't like move or do anything. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and like Beltsan's efforts to do that too are just charming.
I did, Grant. I did pick one up. That's the one I sent you the picture of when I was in the Little Tokyo.
Yeah.
Maybe 2-ish weeks ago.
He's also my Discord profile picture. Wow, why didn't I think of that?
Yep.
That's his dumb smiling face right there.
He's great. I love him so much.
Good boy. I think for myself, again, I'm not gonna say like is my favorite or whatever, but just like device that I really enjoy. I don't want to say O's again because I know I've said O's before for some of his transformation stuff, though I do really love the coin gimmick. I think it's a good shtick. I'm gonna go a little old school here. I think I'm gonna give it to 1966 Ultraman, the beta capsule essentially.
Nice.
There's something about, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't actually, like, there's no play at it having some kind of functionality. Shin just holds it up and he goes. But there's something about that. It's not just the pose. He has to have this little kind of gizmo with it. And that capsule it's just a capsule. There's really nothing else to it. But that addition of this sort of having this kind of weird sci-fi little gizmo with it just adds this extra little layer of I guess fun and sort of interest to it that otherwise it would just be him standing there and he grows really large. That would make him not much different than...
I'm finding that Ultra has some really unique henshin devices, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And can we talk about Seven and the Domino Mask? It's great. It's so good. That sequence is... Even as someone who loves corny sequences, the Ultra 7 transformation sequence has aged poorly, but I still love it.
Oh boy. Another thing on the list.
Yeah. Ultra 7 is... Love Ultra 7.
Oh man. This is still tough. I'm gonna have to throw out... Okay, I guess this is what it is. So Kabuto was my first one, and I really liked how the Zectors would just show up. So you'd grab, I guess they just pop out of nowhere. Like a beetle or whatever the bug is, it would pop up when you needed to transform, and then you'd insert that into the belt. And the sound effects for it really, really hit home for me. But the one I'm gonna go with, like usually they fly around, so all the ones that show up up until a certain point. It's, well, except for, I guess, the scorpion one, but the beetle, the bee, the dragonfly, they all kind of fly in from somewhere in the universe or something. But the when Kickhopper shows up, it actually has to jump around, and it's sort of like it sounds like a grasshopper, but I think it's supposed to be a locust, and it actually like makes this little sound effect as it's bopping over to him. And of course that connects to like one of the most super wannabe serious looking guys, and he jams that into his belt, and I think that one just really speaks to me.
Large robot insects from Hammer Space.
Yep. But you got to see the way this guy's dressed, and he just pulls that out of nowhere. Like he's the dark emo dude that's a fallen soldier that. But he sells it. Of course he does. So that's what's great about this stuff.
And then our last question here comes from John Smith, buddy over at Yadatachi. He says, "Hi guys, I've got a bunch here. Have you seen the 2017 Power Rangers film? If so, what did you think about it, and what would you like to see from the sequel? Are there any other Toku properties that you'd like to see get a Hollywood adaptation of? If so, which ones and why?" Whew. Okay, so we'll take these piece by piece. Have you seen the 2017 Power Rangers film?
No.
Yes.
Yes, as so have I as well. Okay, so Pocky, I guess you and I will take the next one. If so, what did you think about it, and what would you like to see from the sequel?
I adored it. I felt like it was a very faithful tribute to the original, but also managed to be cool. Like, it captured the coolness that people expect from a modern superhero movie, but also acknowledged the fact that, yes, it's Power Rangers, and it's meant to be whimsical, and it's meant to be lighthearted and brightly colored and dumb. It struck a balance that I really, really appreciated as somebody who grew up with the show and is coming back to it as an adult. As for a sequel, I would just like to see a sequel exist. Please.
Right.
I have no illusions that this hypothetical movie, would be about anything other than Tommy Oliver, which, thank you, but no, I've had more than enough of him. I just want to see another movie. I don't care about the rest.
Yeah, I have to agree. As someone who went into it, I flinched from the moment I heard it was happening until I sat down in the theater and the credits roll. I was tensed up, racing for impact. I was surprised not only that it was not bad, but that I was like, oh no, I actually think this is really good. And I think specifically the ways in which it was good, because I expected like, well, I'll probably like the robot stuff fighting and then the suit fighting, and the characters probably won't be written the way I wanted, but I feel like that was completely flipped. Like, I really identified, especially with certain parts of Zach's story, but like pretty much I thought the cast was the strongest part. Like, that was far and away, to me, the best part of the film was the core cast and how let's be honest with ourselves, the MMPR cast was not given a lot to work with, and a lot of character elements have been added sort of in our mind's eyes and in later years through other sort of various either fan discussions or comic adaptations or what have you. So the way they sort of filled in the gaps with those characters, but they still felt like the MMPR cast, was really, really great to me. But at the same time, it was a film that was not perfect. I didn't like the Zord designs going in. I still didn't really like them in the film. Some of the stuff like the product placement and all that, which was just on an order of magnitude more than we'd seen in other. I mean, we're used to it in films, but it was just a lot. But I've seen it on repeat viewings, and I still really enjoy it, and I would love to see more from it. I think that because of the way Power Rangers has always taken the Super Sentai and just, well, these are just the new suits this season for the same cast, so to speak. Like Pocky, I feel like the sequel will just be the Tommy Oliver fest, and I'm like Pocky, I'm also good with that. I'm like, look, okay, we've seen enough JDF, and I get it. A lot of people really like Tommy, but I would prefer probably anything else. But I think you could reset the Zords and that kind of expectation, and that's what the franchise does, so wouldn't bother me one bit.
I'm definitely on the same page with you with the character development. Following the development of this film, I saw the casting sides and some of the stuff that actors were being asked to do when they were reading for these roles, and I was just like, oh no, oh no. And then I caught wind of the rumor that they were going to give Billy, who is the character very near and dear to my heart, some form of canonical mental illness, and I was just like, oh no, there's absolutely no way they're going to get this right. No way are they going to get this right. They got it right. I was gobsmacked by this. It did a lot of things less than well, but as a movie, it did a lot of things well also, and some things that we really hadn't seen done before.
Yeah,
you guys are really selling me on this movie.
Do check it out.
Not that I'm against it. I just haven't put the time in, and I might maybe this weekend.
This was my wife liked it too, and she normally does not care for any of the Toku stuff. Anything I watch, she walks in the room. She sees a giant rubber lobster that's, spewing mayonnaise out of its elbows, and I have to go, wait, no, let me explain, and then she's already gone. She enjoyed Power Rangers, the 2017 movie, and when I watched it again with her, because I went to the theater on my own to see it, because she's like, I'm not going to go see that thing. But I came back, and I was like, God, it was really, really good. And I convinced her to watch it when we got it on DVD, and she was like, wow, that was really, really good. So, yeah, and Billy, particularly, is just the heart of the film, and which is important for a lot of reasons, but just also because Billy was, he's kind of an iconic. I think many of us were some degree of Billy growing up, and seeing him be just kind of the heart and soul of the movie was really endearing and really special for many, 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 many reasons. Like Pocky was mentioning, they got it right. It was like going into it, I was like, they're not going to do this right, and they did it. So, and I think that a hypothetical sequel is probably much less likely now, given its box office performance. It started strong, but tapered off very quickly. My thinking is that, Zords and fighting and CG, that all that stuff can change, but the core cast of characters, like that cast with that acting talent, you can build a franchise off that cast. So I hope they do.
All right, I'll make a serious effort to see it this week.
Yay.
Maybe.
Hooray. We did it.
We did it.
That was actually a fake question. I wrote it just to get you to watch it. No.
Yeah, I knew John Smith was a fake name. Sorry, John.
No. And his last question, are there any other properties that we'd like to see a Hollywood adaptation of?
Kamen Rider. Do it. Just do it. Just lean into it.
It won't end well. Sequence. It won't end well. History has shown us this.
I know, but it's not going to stop Toei from making it in Japan, so I want to see it anyway.
You know what? Honestly, I never... The idea of Hollywood adapting something, especially something like this from another culture and such a very different... That, as we've talked about, hits a lot of different switches than your standard sort of action-adventure thing does here in the States. Already fills me with dread, but if you could get together, not necessarily the MCU creative team per se, but a similar team of people who understand how to make a modern film, but also really deeply understand and appreciate the content that they're adapting, so that they know, like, okay, we need to do it right, and here's the, we need to hit the high points, and it doesn't have to be beholden to lore, but we need to show people what these characters are really about in about 2 hours or less. Like, I would be on board. I don't know what that team is or who those people are. Maybe it's the 3 people on this podcast here. Talk to us, Hollywood. But, I would like to see a similar team that isn't necessarily pure. It doesn't have to be all quote unquote diehard fans, but people that understand what these characters are about and what they're adapting, but still do a serviceable job. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I don't know if such a team exists.
I think that the pitfall here is that just the way that it seems like American cinema or Hollywood blockbuster or superhero stuff is, they would probably focus really hard on the darker side of Kamen Rider as it is. Because it's definitely a part of it, like to be, using the monster's power against the monsters, and to also sort of have to live with that, either the side effects of it or the consequences of it. And I feel like I don't know if we're gonna end up with a little too much optimism or not enough optimism from it, because they want to be edgy.
This is America. Too much edginess, not enough optimism.
Yeah, right.
I think that, for myself, my hopes would be so low for any type of other Toku adaptation in the United States that I would just be like, let's start off with something that's already awful. let's see VR troopers get the Power Rangers treatment. Let's see tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills get the Power Rangers treatment. Turn one of those things into a movie. It can't get any worse. It can only go up.
Oh boy. Deep cuts.
I actually like this idea. You sold me on it.
Oh man.
All right, guys. I think that was all the questions. Pocky, thanks so much for being on with us. Where can the people find you? Like, what? Tell plug away. Tell the people where they can find you and the places and the stuff that you do.
Well, I mostly live on Twitter. I am Pocky Squirrel there, and my main podcast, Toku Ladies. We are coming off of a very long hiatus, so expect a new episode of that coming down the pike in the nearish future. And we are also on Twitter and available elsewhere through that at TokuLadies_pod.
Excellent.
And I also just have to say, as someone who's a personal, really big fan of your show, I do recommend people check it out. And I also particularly recommend, if you have even a passing interest in Power Rangers, the interview that you guys did with the Sudarso brothers was just such a great episode. So great. So all your stuff's good, but that episode particularly, I was just like, wow, this is really kind of a special treat that anyone in the PR fandom would greatly appreciate.
That interview was like our crowning achievement. I don't know that we'll ever top it.
You guys have a lot of jewels in that crown, but that's a shining one. That was a really good episode.
Stop it, I'm blushing.
Another thing to add. Another.
Not
Not enough time in the world, but I'm going to do it. I'll have to check it out. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, all right. Well, I've been Grant.
And I'm Pat.
And Pocky Squirrel.
Thanks for tuning in to the Super Senpai Podcast. We'll notice you again next time.
Super Senpai Podcast.